Hello everyone, this is Chappie over here at Intense, and for today's video we're going to be going over creaks and squeaks and how to go about troubleshooting these ailments that you might be experiencing with your Intense 951 series bike. Whether it's trail or XC, this will apply to both. So there are essentially 4 different items that we'll review as we go through our troubleshooting creaks and squeaks. So first and foremost, probably the most common on a brand new bike is our suspension pivots. So we're going to be focusing in on our upper and lower pivot on our top link and our forward and rearward pivot on our lower link. You're going to be going through what is called a break-in process. So that break-in process is going to require those specific pivots to be retorqued after that 2 to 10 hours. Primary symptoms that you'll notice if your bike is requiring this is you'll just notice a little bit of creaking and squeaking as the suspension moves or as you're applying pressure to the pedals and pedaling your bike. Very simple fix. We have multiple videos going over of this process for the 951 Trail, as you see here, and also our 951 XC. So I definitely would say go and check those out. That'll walk you through the process of service and maintenance there. Number 2 is going to be our drivetrain. So this is another common area that you might notice some creaks and squeaks or clicking in this example. But the biggest thing you'll notice is just lackluster performance, inaccuracy of shifting, and also what we call ghost shifting, where maybe it's just shifting on its own, stuff we all don't want to experience. So we'll kind of give a quick demonstration and see where this bike's sitting at now and then what it takes to make it right. So as we go and spin our drivetrain, you see it's just kind of jumping around inconsistently and then also just making lots of noise. So this is going to require in this case, more than likely just a cable tension adjustment. So any adjustment relating to our drivetrain, our rear derailleur, will all be located in our derailleur tuning video for our Intense 951 Trail and XC. They use the same drivetrain from bike to bike, so they are identical as far as setup and tuning. So as an example, it's making this noise. Just make a simple cable adjustment. And we've got our performance back and no more noise. So we are good to go there. Next in line is going to be our brake adjustment. So this is another common place where you might frequently see some noise. This just will require a simple caliper adjustment. And what that is going to be doing essentially is making sure that our rotor, imagine this is our rotor and our brake pads, that our brake pads and our rotor have space between them so they are not rubbing on one side or the other. So our caliper alignment will make sure that sits in between, and the end result will be silence as our wheel spins. So number 4 on that list, we're going to be focusing on our headset assembly and our bottom bracket assembly. So these are 2 areas where you might feel some clicking, grinding, creaking, or squeaking. There's many symptoms that relate to these things. A lot of times the most noticeable symptom is you might feel some clicking or vibration through the handlebars, and a lot of that will be due to our headset preload not being adjusted properly. So this is a very simple process, and we actually go over this process, how to properly set up our headset preload, in our assembly videos. For our bottom bracket, that's going to require a little bit more maintenance. As far as depth of maintenance, we're going to be needing to remove the crank assembly, and that's going to require an 8mm here, and then that will allow you to gain access to our bottom bracket, and then from there we can tighten our bottom bracket. It is threaded, so we don't have any issues with things being pressed in and coming loose or wiggling. As long as those bottom bracket cups are tight, we are good to go. Far less common, almost never happens. It's not something we see on a regular basis whatsoever, but it is something to keep in mind as you go through that troubleshooting process of finding creaks, squeaks, and things like that on your Intense 951 series Trail or XC. And then lastly, anytime that we're going through a troubleshooting process, the first place I'll look is just making sure all my bolts are torqued properly. So I mean, that goes anywhere from the stem, our levers, wheels, cranks, shock bolts, whatever it might be. it's important that we make sure all those components are torqued properly. We do have a video series specifically focused on the pre-ride and post-ride checks that we recommend for your bikes. It's not necessarily a requirement, but it really does help to ensure that every time you're out on the trail that you have a good experience, making sure everything's adjusted properly, nothing's coming loose and things of that nature. So there you have it. We've gone over the most common sources for our creaks and squeaks. If you've gone through these points and you're still experiencing issues, don't hesitate to call us. We'll always be happy to help you get to the bottom of whatever issue you might be having, making sure your bike's working as good as possible and that you're having a good time on the trail. Thanks for choosing Intense.